Senator Rick Santorum.
Senator Santorum, you proposed a zero tax on manufacturing businesses.
I have.
I understand the sentiment behind that, and the state of Michigan's lost hundreds of thousands of manufacturing jobs over the last few decades. Isn't that the kind of distortion in the tax code that people want to get away from in order to get rates down? Flatter, simpler, fairer.
I think getting a rate down to zero is pretty far down. That's good.
But it's down for the manufacturing industry as opposed to people doing other things. Isn't that picking winners and losers?
It's down for a sector of the economy, not picking an individual winner or loser. It's down for an entire sector of the economy that we're getting our hat handed to us by losing jobs. We see that here in Michigan. We see it across this country. And the reason is government has made us uncompetitive. We need to compete on taxes. We need to compete on regulations. We need to repeal Obamacare. We need to, I've said I'm going to repeal every single Obama-era regulation that costs businesses over $100 million. We'll repeal them all. We'll send a very clear message out to manufacturers in this country and all over the world that America will compete. Some have suggested we need to go into a trade war with China and have tariffs. That just taxes you. I don't want to tax you. I want to create an atmosphere where businesses and manufacturers can be profitable. Lower taxes, repatriating funds, 0% tax if you repatriate those funds and invest them in plant and equipment. And then, of course, an energy policy that everyone on this stage is going to agree with that says we are going to produce energy in this country. I'm different than many of them, that I'm going to cut all the subsidies out and let the market work as opposed to creating incentives for different forms of energy that the government supports.
Senator Santorum, I want to talk about a high-quality problem our country has. I just came back from North Dakota. We have made the largest oil discovery in a generation there. Not only is it a big step toward creating energy independence, it stands to create as many as 300,000 jobs. But what the guys tell me up there is that they can't handle the rush without federal help. Would you favor incentives to get workers and businesses to where the jobs are to support this boom?
No, because we've done it in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has Marcellus Shale. It took a while for us to ramp up, but we're drilling 3,000 to 4,000 wells. The price of natural gas, because of Marcellus Shale, which is the second largest natural gas find in the world, has gone from $12 to $3.65, and we let the marketplace work. So no, we didn't have the federal government come in and bail us out. I want to make the point about manufacturing jobs again, because if you're talking about creating jobs that trickle down. I agree with Newt. We have folks who are innovators, but he talked about innovators that created jobs for blue-collar workers. The unemployment rate among non-college educated is well into the double digits in America. It's 4 or 5% for people who have college degrees. The reason I put forth this manufacturing plan is not just so we can say made here in America, that we can create opportunities for everyone in America, including those that don't have that college skill set. People who built this country, like my grandfather, who was a coal miner. So that is a very important part that Republicans, unfortunately, are not talking about. We need to talk about income mobility. We need to talk about people at the bottom of the income scale being able to get necessary skills and rise so they can support themselves and a family. And that's what manufacturing does, and that's why I'm laser beam focused on it.
Let's get back to tax reform. You have all said that you will repeal President Obama's health care legislation. Down the line, 30 seconds. If you repeal Obamacare, what's the answer?
This is, I think, the difference between me and a lot of the candidates. I heard a lot of responses, but I haven't seen a lot of consistency in some of those responses on the last few questions. When it comes to health care, back in 1992, I introduced the first health savings account bill that everybody up here said was the basis for consumer-driven health care. I was leading on that before anyone else was even talking about it. Secondly, I was someone who proposed a block grant for Medicaid way back in 1998 with Phil Gramm. Again, leading on this issue. Same thing, reforming the Medicare program back in the 1990s. Again, I led on these issues. I was always for having the government out of the health care business and for a bottom-up consumer-driven health care, which is different than Governor Romney and some of the other people on this panel. Number two, and I didn't get a chance to answer any of the housing questions. I was on the Banking and Housing Committee in the United States Senate. I was one of 24 people who wrote a letter to Harry Reid saying, please let us bring up this housing legislation, which I voted for in the committee, that would have put curbs on Fannie and Freddie. I was out there before this bubble burst saying this was a problem. I was in Scranton, Pennsylvania the other day, and I had one of a home builder, who was the head of the association, came up to me and said, Rick, I'm here to apologize. We came here to push you so you would oppose, putting caps on Fannie and Freddie. You were right. We were wrong. Time and time again, Wall Street, the Wall Street bailout. 5 of the 8 people on this panel supported the Wall Street bailout. I didn't. I know that we solve problems best from the bottom up, not the top down and government intervention in the market.
If everyone on this stage rules out any tax increases, even at a 10-to-1 ratio of spending cuts, as you have done, what could you possibly offer Democrats to get them to go along and compromise with you on the things that Republicans want?
You create a platform that they can buy into because they see the advantages of your plan. For example, one of the reasons that I put forward this manufacturing plan is because folks here in Michigan, Democrats and Republicans, will vote for it. I was at the New Hampshire House of Representatives the other day and spoke to a bipartisan group, talked about the tax plan, not just the manufacturing, but the broad-based plan that I have. And I had 2 Democratic House members go over to my chairman, Dan Tamburello, and said, hey, I want him to come to my district and talk about this. We can support it. So when you put together a plan, look, if the Republican Party is just about keeping the top rate, lower or cutting taxes, we're not going to be reaching people. We've got to look at plans that bring people together. That's why I focused on this sector. I understand, John, that the Wall Street Journal won't like that I'm picking one sector over another. I don't care. What I need to do is bring America together, find a plan that can work, that we can be implemented right away. It may not be the boldest plan in the world, but it's one that will work. It'll put people back to work. It'll give the ability of people to rise in our society. It'll help put jobs out in rural America where the manufacturing loss has been the greatest and the employment rate is the highest. You put a plan like that together, you'll get Democrats and Republicans, and we'll create jobs in this country and we'll get things done.